Hi, friend. Welcome back to the Mindset Check podcast. I'm your host, Misha McKittrick. I'm a mindset coach, and we believe on this podcast that as you take time for a mindset check, that you have more power than you think you do. We also believe that as life happens, we become wounded or we become wise. And we're going to break down today a little bit about that and talk about how we can become the latter. In this first season of the Mindset Check podcast, we are reading through my journal. So if you're not aware of that, you can jump back to the very first episode and listen to this chronologically if you want. This is a journal that I kept when I was 15 years old and I was pregnant. And I went through a few really tough years of navigating through that, being pregnant, dealing with relationships, and ultimately losing my little girl. And we're diving into that day by day through my journal entries. It's an honor that you are on this ride with me. I always like to give a little bit of a recap of who's who in the episode that's upcoming. Really, the only person that has been mentioned before, but you might not recognize or know, is Zach, and that is Jesse's friend. So Jesse, in the time of the journal, is my husband. Zach is his friend. There's different friends that I mentioned that I say their names. They're not really anything that you need to know any backstory about. My sisters, April, Shelley, and my parents, we talk about. But for the most part, that's all you really need to know. So let's jump in. May 17th, 1994. I came to my mom's for a while to let Jesse know I'm serious about him, the way he acts, and how he can just go out and then come home and I'm waiting for them. And I mean, he had the best of both worlds. Well, now he's got to choose one. I just wonder which one it will be. Taylor's sick, fluid in her ears, and she has a fever. The other day, my friends came to get me, Keisha, Allie, and Stacy. We just drove around, and Jesse called that night. We talked for a while about how he thought, quote, I didn't have enough balls to leave. He said that. Yesterday, didn't do much. Went to April's game. She won. When I talked to Jesse last night, he said his mom cried when he told her I left. He sounded sad, and that made me happy. I want him to miss me and want me back so bad that we both might realize we can't treat each other like that anymore, or we might not get the chance to change what we've done. Today was bad because I missed him so much. I hated the world. And I think Taylor does too, if it's possible, because she's acting very different. Tonight on the phone, I couldn't hold back my tears. It would be so much easier if he didn't have me wrapped around his finger. I love him, and I just want to cry forever when he says stupid things that make me mad. Why is he like that? Crying tonight wasn't part of the plan, because now he knows he can still treat me like bleep, and I'll be there. I want him to think he's got to treat me like a queen, or I'm gone. Maybe he wants someone to treat like he does me, and not the other way, or he'll be gone. Help. May 20th, 1994. I'm very sick. I feel like it anyway. Head cold, sore throat, terrible. Jesse told me he wasn't coming to get me and Taylor until morning, but I talked to Zach and he said he had already come to Cedar tonight. Wonder what he's doing. Things that make you go, Why didn't he come here? Tomorrow is Milford Day, like a celebration. Milford has, and I guess we're going. Zach didn't ask. He just said, I'm coming to get Taylor, and you can come if you want. Hell, I feel invited. I know I don't have to be, but I'd feel uncomfortable if I was. I wonder what Jesse's going to end up doing. Kaylee's 7 weeks was yesterday. May 22nd, 1994. I went to Milford with Taylor. It wasn't all that fun, and he didn't treat me a whole lot better. Still screwing around. Heck, this weekend I even got to visit all of his buddies. I don't understand why we can't be alone, live alone. Tonight when he dropped me and Taylor off, he got all mad and left and peeled out. I came in and April said, "What's the matter with him?" I said, "He's a bleep." And I came downstairs. Shelley tried to come and hug me, and I got all mad and said, "Leave me alone." She threw a fit and cried. I went upstairs to get Taylor. Mom and Dad tried to talk, but I said, "Leave me alone. I don't want to talk about it." I guess that all ruined everybody else's night. If he calls, I'm going to tell him to find somebody who likes the way he treats them, because I sure don't, and end the conversation. Whew. It's starting to get heavy. I don't know. Has it already been heavy? Reading back through this really does bring up all the drama. So many things we can take apart in these entries. And really, it's quite beautiful. I'm so grateful looking back that I kept a journal for a lot of reasons. I mean, the number one, obviously I'm reading them to you, right? And so that's also a blessing to, I think, all of us as we kind of walk through life with this 15-year-old girl. And by doing that, it helps us break down our own stuff, our own things. But for my own health and for my own well-being, I can see how even going through all of this heavy and writing it down really assisted me as I was going through it. Because little things like me talking about the way he is treating me. You know, that last sentence where I say, I'm going to tell him to go find someone who likes the way that he's treating them because I don't like it. Just writing that allowed me to vocalize a truth that was inside of me that I was feeling, but maybe I didn't have the capacity to talk to other people in my life at that time about all of the intricacies of what was happening and what I was feeling and all of the things that I was going through. But even though I didn't know enough to really know exactly how to stand up for myself, I knew that what was happening wasn't right. And by validating that with myself, just in my journal, led to me ultimately being strong enough and to vocalize that as a truth. I don't want to be treated like that. And to know that my heart was resonating with that, writing it down and resonating and thinking about it and resonating, it brought more validation, right? So that I had more capacity to see it for what it was. Does that make sense? Because sometimes things get lost inside of our mind. Sometimes we can quickly put things under the rug or cover things up. And it's really important to write down and sort of process these things. It's interesting, my declaration of saying, I don't like to be treated like that, and recognizing that. If we recognize that the way we allow other people to treat us is a very indirect way of the way that we treat ourselves. What we allow, what we sort of put up with, is also a byproduct of the way that we treat ourselves and what we are allowing and what we're comfortable with. Ooh, start to evaluate that one and take it apart. It's so juicy and so, so good. You're worth it. You are worth A, treating yourself kindly, and B, having the expectation that the people around you, the people in your life, that they should also treat you kindly. It's interesting as we look through the journal and the memory that I have of, leaving, driving away. Just put this in perspective, I was 15 years old. Like, getting up the gumption to leave my husband, my marriage, my situation, to make the decision to separate. It not only required the bravery to do that, but it required, me calculating the risk, because I drove 30 miles without a driver's license. I can remember driving and conjuring the explanation in my mind. Like, officer, I'm sorry, but this is the situation and I have to get to my parents' house. And wow. And that's a vivid memory that I can see myself in that car rounding a certain corner thinking that. And in a lot of the episodes, we talk about Paul and Gina. Gina is Jesse's sister, and her friendship and her support, and Paul's friendship and support during that time, it helped me sort of have that backbone, knowing that they supported me. I remember they even gave me $50 the day I was leaving. Just, Mish, here's some gas money. Like, we're really happy that you're doing this. Jesse needs this. He needs this wake-up call. He's, being such a, But just knowing that they had my back. Think about that for a minute with the people that have supported you and that you support in life, and how vital it is. I mean, it's a lot to just get the courage and the bravery to support ourselves, but it does make it a little bit easier when people have our back and support us and are telling us, yes, I think that that's the good decision. I think that I support you, whatever it is. There's so much to look inside of here with all of the games that were being played, all of the red flags that were kind of going up. The moment when I realized, he said he wasn't coming here until tomorrow, but I talked to his buddy Zach, and Zach said he left tonight. And I said, why didn't he come here? And literally just said the things that make you go, and like moved on. Like, I was recording it, I was quasi-seeing it. But later on, you're going to see like, girlfriend, major red flag. Sometimes we don't want to see the red flags, or we're not ready to see the red flags yet. That's why sometimes it just takes time, and you got to start writing all of the things down. Just continually, no matter what is in front of you, whether it's about a marriage or just different things that maybe they just don't belong in your life, but you haven't really figured out or seen proof enough to take action, It's funny that I was a little bit a facetious person. I was like, heck, this weekend I even got to hang out with all of his buddies, when that's exactly what I didn't want to do. I was so tired of that. I was so tired of his buddies constantly being with us, being in our space. It was a lot. It was a lot to carry. And remember in the entries how I said I was very sick, and Taylor was sick. Our bodies manifest emotions. Babies feel it too. You could see Taylor was sick. Your emotions have a direct impact on your physical health. They affect the cells in your body. And initially, emotions kind of take the form of drama, right? Fear, anger, hurt, grief, shame, guilt, pain, shock, resentment. All of those things. And they just kind of like, sometimes they get regurgitated or they're just feelings. It's energy, right? And there's a little bit of a story, because if we don't handle those emotions, they become heavier, they become more. They become deep-rooted diseases. We're going to talk about the science of that in just a second. But just for perception's sake, picture holding a glass of water, right? Let's say it's half full of water. And this is not like half empty or half full. It's really, how heavy is this? Like, just picture yourself holding a glass kind of like right up in front of your face, kind of just right up to the side of your shoulder. You're just holding that glass there. I read this story and I just thought of how much it relates to our emotions and what we hold as we go through life. Because in the beginning, that glass is not heavy at all. But if we have to hold it for an hour, it gets heavier and your arm starts to ache. And if you have to hold it for a day, your arm can start cramping up and feeling numb. It becomes a lot. It becomes too much to hold. The longer you hold it, the heavier it feels. And that's similar to our emotions. The longer that we hold it, the more complex they get. So where they might start as small or momentary hurts and fears and angers, it can become so uncomfortable if we never unpack those feelings. We have to get used to working it out and also releasing those things. It's interesting to see how science finds evidence to back these types of things up. They found evidence that a person's thought patterns can influence their immunity and the rate at which they heal from injuries and illness. It's kind of like that book, Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. I always love referencing it. And if you don't know what it is, feel free. You can kind of look up what your issue is and then you can see what the feeling is. And, you know, I'm not sure about, if this is what's ailing you, then this is the problem. I'm not really sure about that. I like checking in with it, and then usually it's true. But I know that if we don't work the things out, that it manifests. Sometimes it even just manifests in being overweight and carrying weight with us through life. But often it turns into more. Our emotions are so important to be in check with. It's important to be writing it down and then to figure out how to process it, how to rid yourself of the things in your life that are causing the emotions, if it's possible, and then also how to release them. You can release emotions through exercise, meditation. You know, animals actually shake to release emotion. There is an experiment that they've done with a polar bear, and they monitored his heart rate. And when he was under extreme stress, he laid down on the ground and shook. And when the stress was released, he got up and went back to eating berries and fishing, and his heart rate had returned back to completely normal. And so from that, we learn, and there's lots of other animals that they've studied and seen, they actually shake when they're under extreme stress. And we can shake, we can cry, we can laugh, we can release emotions. We can journal, we can practice self-love and compassion. It's interesting because later in the journal entry, we see an opportunity that I had to confront the emotions, and I didn't. When I walked in after he dropped me off and he sped away, and all of my family, both of my sisters, tried to comfort me, hug me, and what did I do? I just pushed them away. My parents tried to talk with me, and I guarantee that it was just like, that it wasn't like, them judging me, but I probably felt embarrassed. I probably wanted to run away from that feeling. And sometimes when you're just so mad, you're not really ready to sit in it. It's kind of like this story from the 4 Agreements. It's talking about how healthy skin, when you touch healthy skin, like tickle, massage, just an arm on someone else, a hug, it feels good. But when skin is injured, or if it's cut or infected, if you touch that, it hurts. And so you try to cover and you protect the skin. And you really don't enjoy being touched because it hurts. Just yesterday I was sitting in church with my son and I was kind of massaging his leg. And he goes, "Mom," he goes, "that kind of hurts." And I looked at him confused, and he's like, "I think I have a bruise right there." So if our skin is injured, it hurts to touch it. And sometimes that's how it is inside of our mind. That we are an emotional person. And when those emotions get infected or hurt, sometimes a hug hurts. Sometimes it hurts to face it. But even though it hurts, we have to look at it. It kind of goes back to the thing that I always say about the way that other people treat you is more of a reflection of them than it is of you, right? Hurt people hurt people. So one of the most important things that we can do in our life is learning to recall ourselves, learning how to control our behavior, even when we're hurt. There's the story of the little boy who had a very hard time controlling his anger. And his father decided to give the boy a challenge. And the challenge was that he gave him a bag of nails, and he said, every single time that you lose your anger, you lose your temper, I want you to go and hammer a nail into the fence. And the boy hammered so many nails into that fence. And over time, the boy gradually learned how to control his temper. And over time, he discovered that it was easier to control his temper than to hammer those nails into the fence. And finally, the day came when the boy didn't lose his temper at all. And he told his father the news. And the father suggested that the boy should now pull out a nail for every day that he kept his temper under control. And as the days passed, the boy pulled all the nails out. And he was so proud, and he told his father, all the nails are gone. And the father took his son by the hand and he led him to the fence. And he said, "Well done. But I want you to look at the holes in this fence. This fence will never be the same. When you say things in anger, they leave a scar just like this one." And I think about my sister Shelley. Everybody tried to comfort me, but for whatever reason, I was a little bit more detailed about Shelley's response and how much it affected her. She cried, and she outwardly let me know that hurt her feelings. And I'm really happy that my sister is so loving and forgiving and understanding. Because sometimes we burn bridges, you know. And so it's really important because I think about the gravity of the relationship with my sister now. And even then, but now, oh, yeah. It's one that I for sure treasure. And so it's important for us to learn how to not project our pain, our hurt, our anger onto other people. We see it most easily show up with kids, right? They get in trouble with their parents and then all of a sudden they go, have you ever seen them? They go like yell at one of their siblings. Like that automatic response. All of a sudden they're mad and so they can get mad at somebody else and it just makes it worse. And then watch, we're slowly showing them as they go through life how not to project that. You know, we walk through it with them. How much are we walking through it with ourselves? It's interesting too that not just by observing your kids, they teach you lessons, but sometimes they just call you out. And it's important to be able to do that with your families. It's really important. One day I was in Target with my son and I don't love this memory, but it's something that I've had to learn and I'm still not perfect at it. I'm just not. I was in Target with my son and the employee told us some news I didn't want to hear. Maybe they were out of something or whatever. It doesn't really even matter what it was. But it was kind of that situation. And I wasn't very kind to the person, to this employee. And my son, after the situation was over, he said, "Mom, why did you treat him like that? It's not his fault." And it's like, you know, when your kids are old enough and they start recalling you like that and you're like, oh, knife in the heart. And he's more than right. And I needed that. I love the quote, "The real test of your character is in how you treat people that you don't have to be nice to." It's so important for us to sit back and to evaluate it. And then even more, you know, not projecting our pain so that it turns into someone else's pain and someone else's pain. Even more is just learning that when we're reacting to the pain or whatever it is in our life, we can't heal ourselves. We have to step back. We have to teach ourselves to step back. So Stephen Covey talks about this, pushing the pause button, that there's a space that exists between the stimulus and the response. And in that space, there's the power to choose. This is the quote. It says, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our freedom and our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." That's a quote that Stephen Covey has regurgitated and not really known like where it came from. It, in some circles, is accredited to Viktor Frankl, who if you know who he is, you would know exactly why that could be accredited to him. But if you really break down that quote, you go, okay, Target employee says they don't have any more. And there's a small moment of time, right? That's the space, that's the gap where I get to choose how to react to this person that's giving me the news that I don't want to hear. Right? I have a fight and I walk into the house to other family members who want to love me and help me and walk through it with me. And there's a space where I get to choose how to react. And what's more, not to react, but how to act. Because even if I don't feel like interacting, I hope to be big enough of a person to just look someone who loves me and who's trying to help me in the face and say, I don't really want to talk right now. Just say, I'm sorry, or whatever it is. That's just whatever you can get out. If you can get out, like, I'm really hurt, I don't want to talk right now, or whatever you can get out. Because sometimes when you're so hurt down to like the very level of your gut, you can't. But we can learn how to not project that pain, how to throw it right back at someone else. We can say, you know what, the buck stops here. And not that I'm going to absorb those emotions and not handle and deal with them, but I'm going to do it in a healthy way. I'm going to do it in a way that doesn't leave holes in the fence. I'm going to do it in a way that allows me to truly release. I'm going to shorten my responses of how long I'm going to react until I'm no longer reacting and I'm acting. Do you see the difference? We have to unmemorize our habits. We have to take ourselves out of reaction and into observation. Because the circumstances that we don't like, that somebody else chooses how to act, what it really does for us is it gives us an opportunity to observe it. It makes us aware of someone else's nature, of someone else's state, what they're going through, and if they are in a space where they're trying to get better at it or where they're just destroying everything in their path, right? And observing it allows us to take all of the emotional charge out of it. If we can stop reacting, then the emotions are no longer running our life. We can stop and we can say, oh my gosh, I am grateful that I am being shown who this person is. Because even if you can't see every single thing on the outside, like I can go back into the situation and see some of the things that I know were probably going through his head, but I had no idea at the time. Like I said, there were red flags, but I didn't know what was really, really going on. But what is showing on the outside is an indication of what's going on in the inside. And so if you can take yourself out of reaction and into observation, you can go, I now have a choice. And that choice is more powerful than the choice of reacting. That choice, A, lets you see the emotions that you're handling, and it allows you to neutralize them and process them. And it allows us to make a choice for the direction that we want to go. We get to choose the circumstance that we put ourselves in. Something that I think is really easy to help us learn how to do this when things are hard is to practice not getting what we want when things are easy. Okay, so There's a guy that I heard of semi-recently, and I don't even remember where I heard this or what the source is, but he practices not getting what he wants. So for example, if he's at Starbucks, he'll ask the girl when he's checking out if he can get like a 20% discount, just so that he can practice hearing no. No, you can't have a 20% discount. And just for him to practice being like gracious and accepting that that's the way that they're running their business. I mean, think about that. Practice allowing others to make choices that are theirs to make, instead of feeling like they took something from us. To see it as a choice. Now we have the choice. Do we want to buy it or not? Well, yeah, you want to buy it. But seeing that it allows us freedom, that this is what allows us true choice. So try it. Try really allowing people to make the choices that they want. And then realizing that now that they've made their choice, you have the freedom to make your choice. So many times, and commonly like early on in our life, we think that our feelings and states of being come to us through outside environments, instead of realizing that we have the ability to create those feelings inside of us. We have the power to generate them. And at the end of the day, we can ask ourselves, are we becoming wounded or are we becoming wise? Are we allowing the hard things in our life to dictate the direction, who we're being? Are we using it for an excuse? Like, oh, this is really hard, and so, I have an excuse to be wounded, or to not take action, or to not allow my own intelligence to stand up for myself. It happens little by little. The way that I recorded in my journal that I didn't want to be treated like that. That was the recognition. So much of the way that we treat ourselves dictates the kind of person that we are. So much of the way that we allow other people to treat us dictates the person that we are. So much of the way that we treat other people dictates the person that we are. No matter how educated, talented, rich, or cool you believe you are, how you treat people ultimately tells all. Integrity is everything. Remember that as we're thinking about the power that we have. The power that we have in our life. Something happens to us, we get to observe it. We get to break it down, and we get to make a choice. There is no need for you to fall into habits that are reactionary. The momentum that you want to take in your life is to really just start noticing it, and then to start doing something different. And if it's like resonating inside of your heart, that's exactly what you want. Because you don't have to be perfect at it, but you have to be willing to see it. You have to be willing to see it, because just by seeing it, you get to do something about it. And by doing something about it, it changes the entire person that you're signing up to be. You have more power than you think you do. These are choices that no matter what status or what age or how your health is, it doesn't matter. These are choices that you get to make in your life. Treating yourself with respect, treating other people with respect is dictated by the way that you think and your feelings inside of your own self. Remember that the way that we feel is not coming to us through our outside environment. The way we feel is created inside of us. We have the power to generate and to create what that feeling is, and then to allow the way that we treat others to be a reflection of that. It's easy for me when I look at it like that's a reflection of who they are, and it doesn't have to be a reflection of who I am. But it's so important to see all of the things that we need to unmemorize, and that we need to unlearn, and that we need to let go of, and to stop. Right? It's stopping here. It's stopping with me. I'm not going to continue to spread those negative feelings in this world. I'm going to take the power that I have access to, and I'm going to use it. Remember that you have more power than you think you do, especially when you take time to take a mindset check. When you sit down and you go through it and you figure it out, and you are courageous and willing and brave enough to look at the patterns that you have in your life in the ways that you need to recall. Because it's not embarrassing, okay? Because everybody does it. Everybody has intricacies and little ways that they work, that they want or need to improve in, or that they need to look at. The important part is seeing that you're willing to look at it, and that you're willing to become wise, because you are willing to do something about it. You're willing to sign up for good habits, for good actions. And the most important part of that willingness, of that ability to recall the ways of being that you don't want to be, is that now you get to choose what you put in its place. So now you get to choose to be a person who's encouraging to someone else. You get to choose to be able to put love in a place where there was something else that was blocking it. Whatever it is that fuels you, you can now fuel others with, right? And even fueling yourself. And that goes back to being the kind of person that treats yourself with such a high level of respect, regard, love, right? Like, you're now treating yourself on a 5-star level instead of a 2-star level, right? Of a hotel. Because that is who you really are inside. That's who you really have the capability of becoming. You have the capability of being a difference maker for yourself in your life, and then it shows up in every area, in every interaction. It's just overflowing from you once you recall the things that are getting in its way. You get to create that inside, and then you generate that, and you give that. And that, my friend, is where you find power. When you clean up something, you get to put something else in its place. So good job for the bravery of sitting in any uncomfortable emotions from this episode. Because now you can see a more clear path to what you have power, what you have access to, and the power that it's bringing into your life. All right, now I want to share with you a really fun announcement. I started a Facebook group for the podcast, so that you, chances are if you're listening, you're very similar to the people who are also listening. And you know what? All of us are just trying to make it through life together with our heads on straight. And we're all checked into this vibe. We're checked into this vibration of trying to be a better person, right? Accessing the power that we have to be a better person. And my hope and my thought is that we can create this Facebook group into being something, a place of support and love for each other. And that you have the capability of having a place to go and ask questions about your life, questions about different things that you might be going through, and that the community can help you out. So that's the hope for the group. I would love it if you will, next time you're on Facebook, just type in Mindset Check and click to get into this group, because it's also a place where we will be posting just extra little things. There's some things that are really cool that I've been doing and working on. I've been doing a lot of interviews on other people's podcasts, and then I'm inviting them to come on and go live on my Facebook group, right? So that you get to know these other incredible human beings and the things that they're up to, and the different ways of looking at mindset through what they are working on. And it's just so much good insight. So you can go look there. There's some live interviews already that exist there, and we would love to have you join us. Also, this podcast is a podcast that can grow with your help. If you're getting a lot out of this podcast, my heart would be so happy and would just soar if you would share it. I learned about the virality of something when something has the virality of one, like the ratio of one person shares it with one person, that's such a huge virality rate, right? That it has the potential to continue to grow if you have that kind of a rate. So I would love it if you will share it with just one person. And as always, feel free to email me at hello@myfriendmisha.com. You can DM me on Instagram at myfriendmisha. And anything that you have, questions, comments, insights, I would love to hear from you. So feel free to reach out to me. And hey, thank you so much for letting me walk through your journey with you. Honestly, it brings me so much joy. So just in this moment, I want to thank you for that. And I want to honor you for being a person who takes time to really take a mindset check and for allowing for more power in your life. Until next time, my friend.